Okay, so let's sit up comfortably. By the way, a word that I perhaps don't emphasize enough when I give that instruction, it's not just sit comfortably. Sit up comfortably. It's good to have some sense of sitting up. You know, the most important thing is being comfortable. But then after that, it's good to be sitting up. Okay, it's, you know, the hypometabolic state that happens in meditation, right? Is a more plain language for hypometabolic is restful, right? The body is at resting, the mind is resting, we're settling down into silence, but we're alert to the silence, so we can experience it clearly. That's the difference between meditation and sleep. If we happen to fall asleep, okay, that's all right too, but there is a basic distinction. Now, it's helpful, it's not crucial, but it's helpful to have the body in a posture that is conducive to restful alertness. So sitting comfortably is conducive to the restful part. Sitting up is conducive to the alert part. Okay? So just some little sense of sitting up comfortably. Some of you, I know, maybe sit regularly on cushions with your maybe a half lotus pose or something with your back unsupported. And if that's comfortable for you, that's great. But you can also sit, if you have not been doing this, you might want to look into what happens if, instead of just sitting back in the chair, what if you sit just on the edge of a chair so that you can sit without your back leaning against anything. So you can have a sense of sitting up into space. Okay, so it's not a big thing to worry about, but something you might want to play around with, something that you might want to experiment with on your own. If not necessarily that you got to change everything right now, but you might want to experiment with that and maybe, you know, report back at another time. Okay, so let's. Oh yeah, I have to, yeah, doing this on the phone, I got to figure out how to mute people.
Or you could just tell everyone to.
Yeah,
I'm sure
okay.
everybody can
Yeah,
hear.
yeah, everyone please mute yourselves, thank you. Good. Okay, so sitting up comfortably, and let's start, I believe we did this last week, with our bee's breath, okay? The buzzing of the bees. So in a moment, we're going to, but not yet, we'll be covering our eyes with our hands, and we'll be closing the flaps of our ears with the flats, but don't do it yet, the flaps of our ears with the flats of our thumbs, taking a deep breath, lips together, teeth slightly apart, and we'll be going, okay? And just letting yourself disappear into that soothing vibration. All right, so here we go, nice. And we'll do 3 of those. So deep breath. And just allow your hands to easily drop to your lap or to your knees. And just leave everything as it is. Nothing to do, nothing to manage, nothing to monitor, nothing to figure out. Nothing to get right. We're already present. Just rest in that presence. We're already aware, just another name for the same thing. Rest in that awareness, that presence. Another word for the same thing. We're already being. Just rest in that being, that awareness, that presence. This, whatever this is, right here. And whatever might present itself in the face of this simple presence, which is always right here, whatever might present itself, we just don't much concern ourselves with. Thoughts, sounds, restlessness, relaxation, fine. It's all fine. None of it matters. It's all perfect, and it's all perfectly irrelevant. Our only concern is this presence. And it's always right here, always present. And nothing for us to do but rest in it, let go into it. Surrender into it, dissolve into it. Whatever you're holding on to, if anything, whatever you're clinging to, whether it's obvious or subtle places in the nervous system where you might be clinging to things, just let them go. Just let them dissolve into this presence. Even the things that are so subtle we can't give them names. Just gratefully, gracefully give it all up. Give it all up to this perfect, all dissolving beingness. All dissolving, all resolving, all absolving, all absorbing beingness, presence right here. The one place where we can safely let everything go. Safely, gratefully give everything over. The thoughts that come and go, the feelings and sounds and sensations that come and go. We don't have to get rid of them or dissolve them. We just dissolve our engagement with them. We just kind of shrug and smile. We welcome them to the party, but don't take much interest in them. And just melt back into our boundless self. Just melt back into this boundless, qualityless presence, which is always right here. Right here. No edges, no texture, no anything, but always right here. Always available to let go into. So keep the eyes closed and take a couple of minutes to gently start bringing the body back to a more active state. No, I just turned it down, but I want that book. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how's everybody doing? Being on my phone here, I can only see 3 of you at a time. So I'm scrolling back and forth. There may be a better way to do this, but I haven't figured it out yet. So anyone who has any questions or comments, just unmute yourself and dive in. Because I may or may not see you waving your hand. Anyone, any questions or issues tonight?
So Dean, it's Larry. I really liked all dissolving, all resolving, all absolving.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I really like that. Mm-hmm. Is it true?
Yes. Absolutely. That's also the pun, right? Absolutely. Absolving. Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's the resolution, absolution, what was the other one? Dissolution. It's the ultimate, it's the solution. It's the solution. The solution to the sense that life is a problem. I once heard someone say, or read somewhere, some sage said, an enlightened sage is capable of doing everything except to see life as a problem. Okay. Also, years ago, when I first got involved with Maharishi, I think this was before I even met Maharishi, when I first started reading his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And you know, Maharishi could, his comment, you know, a verse of the Bhagavad Gita is like 4 short lines. So he'll give you the verse, and then the commentary could go on for anywhere from a page to, you know, a couple of dozen pages on those 4 lines. Um, and at one point, he says in the commentary, the solution to every problem is that there is no problem. And when I read that, I did not understand it. It's been a lifelong kind of journey it's been kind of a koan for me, but I knew it was right. And I knew that that was something I'd been waiting to hear for a long time. There are situations, right? And the relative in the world of the relative, of manifestation, of time and space, cause and effect, shit happening. Of course, there are situations. And situations demand actions from us. So, you know, you're hungry, you eat. You have a flat tire, you fix the tire, or you call AAA or whatever, okay? So there's the situation and there's the response. But the sense of, oi, it's a problem, does not have to, notice that doesn't have to be there. That doesn't have to be in the chain of happenings, right? We can have, okay, the tire is flat. We get out the old jack, or we get out the old phone, we call AAA, or we jack up the car. We deal with it and done. What's not necessary in that chain is that feeling of, oh, it's such a problem. And when it's easier at first, when we're in the greenhouse, the hothouse of meditation, with the tender shoot of the tender little green shoots of experience of infinite okayness, you know, because we're not dealing with circumstances. When we're in meditation, we're not dealing with the flat tire. We're not dealing with the fact that we're hungry and we have to go shopping and get the food and cook it and sit down and eat it and then wash the dishes. We're just sitting and being. So it's easier then to melt into that place of all dissolving, all resolving, all absolving, because it's in the context of nothing in particular. And then as we get more accustomed to that place, we more and more, we just know the flavor of it. We know the feeling of that, of everything being resolved, absolved, dissolved. More and more we can carry that into activity and find that we can deal with circumstances without losing that flavor. Is that making sense to you, Larry? You hearing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I'm glad you mentioned the hothouse of meditation, because,
right,
you know, very frequently one meditates, one feels really fabulous, then one goes back out in the world and all of a sudden, oh, geez, what the F is going on? It's the most terrible thing ever. So I think it's important to understand that the meditation is a cultivation. Yes,
absolutely. It's a cultivation, very nicely put. And we cultivate the tender shoots in the greenhouse of meditation. And then as they get more mature, we can more and more transplant them out into the wild, where they're subject to the weather and the external conditions and so on. And sometimes if this shoot got trampled, right? But this one is growing, right? So that feeling of, oh yeah, it's easy to feel like everything is infinitely fine when we're just sitting in meditation. Then we come out into the world, it's like, God, where did it all go? That's not a bug, that's a feature. That's supposed to happen, that must happen. That is part of the journey. I love the look on your face right now, Larry. This is this tells me this is a discovery for you. I love that. I love seeing discovery happen. So don't forget what you're hearing here now. This must happen. This is not just part of the journey. This is the journey. Okay. This is the classic metaphor from the ancient sages of India. They would always point to the weavers, who in India, for some reason, traditionally the weavers are Muslims. And they say, okay, the weavers, they'll take a piece of cloth, like a piece of white cloth, and they dip it into the vat of, say, red dye. And it comes out, and while it's in there, it looks very nice, deep red. So then they take it out and they spread it. I've seen this actually on the banks of the Ganges. They spread it out on a flat rock in the sun, and the sun bleaches out a lot of the color, but a little bit of it remains color fast. Then they dip it again, fade it again, dip it. Each time a little bit more stays. Ultimately, it becomes deep red and permanently. Okay, so the cloth is our nervous system. We dip it into the vat of meditation, and while we're in there, ooh, ah, oh, feels so good. So sometimes with a lot of clarity, often not with a lot of clarity, doesn't matter. But in the general direction is this place of no problem. And then we come out and subject it to the bright sun of the daily grind, and it gets faded, and we think, oh no, my nice bliss is gone. But it's not all gone. That's the key. A little bit of it sticks, and then time to dip again. Both of those strokes of the process are essential. Maharishi used to talk about this all the time. And I remember him once saying, we call ourselves meditation teachers, but really we're, as if we're only teachers of the dipping, but really we're teachers of the entire process. It's just most people are already active. And he said, and this always stuck with me, he said, if we were in a culture where people are all just sitting in caves meditating all the time, we would be activity teachers. We'd be teaching them to come out of the cave and do stuff. Right? Yeah. It's because it's both crucial. Because otherwise you can sit in the cave all your life and feel, oh, this is it. I'm enlightened, one-way ticket. I'm never coming back. Sooner or later, you got to step out of the cave and deal with something, and then it could be all gone. Now, of course, we can also have, so we could think of it as like a sine wave, right? Activity, meditation. And then we can have longer, deeper sine waves, like, okay, now we go on a weekend retreat and we get a nice deep dip and come back, and then we feel like, oh, that, silence, that infinite okayness, more of it is stuck to us for a longer period. Or we go on a week retreat or a month retreat or something.
Yeah.
Right. Rupert Spira has a nice way of talking about this too. I remember I heard him say this, and I burst into tears. Actually, it was so moving to me, where he said how, you I can't remember his exact words, but it was like, you feel, at last I found this, and then you feel you'll lose it. And he said, and sometimes you feel, okay, now my life, I'm there, I'm living it in daily life. I've been there for a month, day and night, 24/7. I'm never going back. And then it just seems it's lost again. And Rupert said, the finding it is grace, the losing it is grace. And the losing it is the greater grace. Because then you have to find your way back. And that's where you really make it your own. That's where you really integrate it with your life. So people hearing that? Yeah, it's great. It's great. Maharishi would also, he would point to his two favorite verses of the Bhagavad Gita as another way of just nailing this down, of saying the same thing. Chapter 2, verse 45, chapter 2, verse 48. Chapter 2, verse 45, Nistrai Gunyo Bhavarjun. Some technical language, Arjuna is the great warrior that the whole thing is addressed to. Be without the three gunas. The three gunas are the basic tendencies of life in the active realm. We don't have to get into the details of that, but so basically, it's in a sense an instruction to meditate. Be without the three gunas means to be without the whole field of activity, right? In other words, and where are you when you're without the field of activity? You've transcended, you're in meditation. So to be without the three gunas is to be in the silence, is to be in the vat of the red dye. And then 3 verses later, yogasta kuru karmani. Yoga means union, the state of being united. Sta, established. So established in union, right? When we meditate, we're temporarily in union with ourself, with our true nature. But once we're yoga sta, we're established in union, then that's when the white cloth has become permanently red. It's established in redness. So yoga sta, established in yoga, established in union with infinite okayness, infinite beingness. Kuru karmani. Karma, we all know karma, action. And kuru is the verb from the same root. Act your actions. Do. So established in beingness, which is beyond all action, do your actions. That's the solution to life. That's how you make everything okay and still get done what needs to be done. You do all necessary actions while irreversibly established in that which is beyond all action, that in which everything is resolved, absolved, dissolved. We're looking for resolution in the actions and in the results of the actions, the fruits of the actions, right? We're looking for, okay, once I get the flat tire fixed, then I'll say, and I'll have that feeling that everything's resolved. Or once I get to the end of the movie and I find out, is the happy couple reunited once they get through all their trials and tribulations? Does Indiana Jones find the lost ark? Whatever it is, then there'll be the feeling of resolution, right? Or once I get through this health challenge, then I'll feel it's resolved. Or once I finally work out that thing with that person that I feel, I treated them poorly. I've been carrying around this guilt for some, and then we get it, and I'm absolved, or I go to church or synagogue and get straight with God, and I'm absolved, right? Or even listening to a piece of music, it starts off in the whatever the key is in. It starts off in, let's say, the key of C, and then it goes to, and then we're waiting for the end of the verse where it resolves back to C. From every mountain top, let freedom ring. Okay, we're waiting for that, and then and in music that's called resolution. It resolves back into the home key. So we're always waiting for that. Before I came on here, I know Yafa was telling that great story about our teacher Charles Genoux and his thing. Are you waiting for something? And we can always ask that question. And we're always waiting to exhale. That was the title of a novel or something, right? We're waiting for the resolution, the absolution, the solution, the dissolution, right? Okay, maybe finally when I die, everything will really be, we have that sneaking suspicion too, right? So what happens when we're yogastha, when we're established in union, established in that which is beyond action, we continue to participate in action, but the action is no longer The whole orientation of the action is different now. We're no longer doing the action as a way of seeking resolution. We're just doing the action because it needs to be done. We are pre-resolved. Can you hear that? We're pre-resolved. We're resolved a priori. We're resolved from the beginning, from before the first moment of participation in the activity. So the activity is, rather than being cast as a seeking of resolution, it's an expression of resolution. And that's what you feel when you're around an awakened person. When you're around the Dalai Lama and you go, boy, what's he got going on there? That's it. I mean, this is, a way of describing it, which is never quite adequate, but this is working for me at the moment anyway, right? That he's doing what he needs. I saw the Dalai Lama a couple of times. Once was at Rutgers University in New Jersey, and was in a football stadium with however many thousands of people you get into the football stadium. And they gave him an honorary degree, and he put on the cap and with the tassel and had a good laugh about that. And actually he said, now this is the way to get a college degree, that you just get the degree and you don't have to do any of the work. And he gave a whole talk. It was something about peace. But you know what? I don't remember anything he said. But here's what I remember. There was one moment he had a plastic water bottle, a bottle of Perry, whatever kind of water they gave him. And it was, of course, they gave him a new one. And at one point he wanted to drink, and he started trying to get the cap off. And he was having trouble getting the cap off. And he just started laughing. He was having such a good time not being able to get the cap off that bottle. And I went, there it is. There's the teaching I came for. I could just feel, oh, this is where he's coming from. This is what every moment is like for him. That's the stuff. And then all the words and the teachings, they're fine, but they're really just a delivery system for that. And yeah, so Larry, again, your question, is that really true? Either that's true, or Jesus and the Buddha and Lao Tzu and Socrates and the Baal Shem Tov and we're all either liars or fools. All right. And it's nice to have those in the Dalai Lama and it's lovely to have those exemplars to help inspire us and help as character witnesses for the absolute, to vouch for it. But more and more, we don't have to depend on them. More and more, we can ask these very sophisticated Dharma questions, which is great. We need to do that. But also, on a very simple level, you're starting to notice that just life's getting smoother. That's it. That's it. I mean, the stuff may, that's the stuff that comes at us, that's dependent on the outer circumstances. That may get bumpier, and some of the stuff going on right now is bumpier, but the way we process it gets smoother, right? Now, if you can just imagine, and it continues to get smoother and smoother. Now, just imagine if you continue in that process to that smoothness reaches some ultimate point. That's what we're talking about. Dissolved, absolved, resolved. In every moment before the first moment of activity. And then all the activity happens within the context of that. And that's why it can say also in the Bhagavad Gita, probably the most famous teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is to perform action not for the fruits of the action, but just doing the action itself. And this is why and people read that and they think, oh, how could I do that? I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna go in and go to work at the office today selling real estate and I'm going to try to push this deal, but I'm going to be indifferent to whether or not I actually close the deal. You know, this very superficial kind of understanding of it, and it doesn't make sense on that level. And they're right. People are right. It does not make sense on that level. The level on which it makes sense is you come into the office, you did your meditation that morning and that lifetime, so you're established, you're already in the and then from there you do the deals. So you don't become like detached or indifferent or, you know, that kind of the misunderstood version of that, apathetic. No, you can afford to be, you'll look just like anyone else from the outside. You look, you're in there, you're pitching, because that's your role. You know, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita were given to Arjuna, the warrior on the battlefield, just before engaging in the battle. Now he doesn't then go, and at the end of it, he goes into the battle. And he doesn't go into the battle in some half-hearted, half-assed way. Well, I'm being detached now. I don't care about the fruits of the action. You know, you're in battle or you're not, and he's in it full on. Because we can afford to be in the battle full on because we're already resolved. Our okayness does not depend on the outcome. Our okayness is already there in each moment of the battle. And that sets us free to be as engaged in the battle as we need to be. Someone once asked Maharishi, what do the actions of an enlightened person look like? And he said, and first let me point out many of the things that you might expect him to say, which he did not say. He didn't say, oh, he just moves in such a calm way, and oh, he's got purple light radiating from his cranium or any of that. He said, the actions of the enlightened person, what are they like? They fulfill the need of the time. Right? So simple. So simple, but look what's built into that. The actions are not there to fulfill that person's neediness. They're not there to fulfill that person's, you know, opinions or emotional predilections. They fulfill the need of the time. The enlightened person can become like a vessel, a conduit for things to be done that need to be done to fulfill the need of the bigger picture, the greater environment.
That was pretty spectacular. It's the first time I've kind of, you know, I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I thought about the Bhagavad Gita, but to be honest, I saw it at a different level this time. It also reminds me of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche's discussion about that, because I always wondered about this idea of not worrying about yourself in Buddhism, you know, just be there for others and don't worry about yourself. You don't have one anyway, so what's the big deal? Right. But he said it differently. He said, when you learn to control your own disturbance, it is then natural to want to help the disturbance of others.
Right.
But not until you control.
Yes.
Not until you have control over your own disturbance.
Right. It's natural. Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, of course, as an editor here, I would want to tweak one word and say rather than control your own disturbance, I would want to say resolve your own.
Resolve your own disturbance. Yeah, that is the perfect connection right there. Yeah. But
yeah, no, that's lovely, and that's, you know, you hear that every time you get on an airplane when they give the safety spiel. You know, make sure your own mask is secure before helping others. Yep. Good. Anything else? What else tonight? Other people, again, if anyone wants to jump in with anything, I can't see everyone at once, so just unmute yourself and jump in. Good. We got a bunch of happy campers. That works too.
Hi, Dean. This is Philomena. And on a very, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, okay. You got a look on your face like.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to find you. I'm swiping left and right. I guess this is what people do on Tinder. I'm looking for a good date. There's Yafa. I think I found my date.
Okay.
But I'm looking for Philomena. There you are.
Yes. Just a personal note, because nobody was saying it, but I'm really glad you were able to record this one, because I have a feeling many of us are going to enjoy it a second time.
Oh, good. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. No, and it's helpful for me to know what's working for people. You know what's landing. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Good. Anything else? I have something I want to read you. Those of you who've been coming to our Sunday poetry sessions, I held this one up last time. This is the definitive, complete poems of Emily Dickinson. And it's great because it's got all 1,700 and something, almost 1,800 poems that we have of hers that were, most of which never saw the light of day in her lifetime. She wrote them on little pieces of paper and squirreled them away in the bureau drawer in her room, and they were uncovered after she died, and it took decades for them to be published. And some of them you never see. So some of them they're never reprinted, and I think because they don't make sense to people. Unless you're doing this practice, some version of this practice, having in some way dipping into this experience as she clearly was. It's like we got the magic decoding ring for understanding this stuff. So here's one, 4 little lines. When one has given up one's life, the parting with the rest feels easy, as when day lets go entirely the west. I'll read it again. You get the image, though? The image is the setting of the sun. The setting of the sun, okay? But, most people, they watch the sunset and they see, okay, pretty colors. She watches the sunset and she sees it as a mirroring of her enlightened experience. When one has given up one's life, the parting with the rest feels easy, as when day lets go entirely the west. Okay? First, let me just make sure, because there's a little bit of inverted syntax there. The sentence is turned around from its normal order. So when she says, as when day lets go entirely the west, normally we would say, as when day entirely lets go of the west. Okay? Of course, the west being the western horizon where the sun is setting. So when one has given up one's life, is that ringing a bell? Does that sound at all like anything we've been talking about or doing tonight? In the meditation where I kept saying, let it all dissolve, let it all melt into this presence, whatever it is. Whether it's something you're conscious of, right? I said tonight, some of these things are so subtle that we don't even have words for them. We're not even, more than vaguely conscious of them, just some kind of, okay. These little like sticking places, and just letting it go, letting it dissolve. right? Some of you have heard me suggest that when you sit down to meditate, try buying a one-way ticket. You know, our usual assumption is, okay, I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And then at the end, I'll open my eyes and get up out of the chair and I'll cook dinner and I'll have this conversation. I'll write this letter, blah, blah, blah. And then in the meditation, you find yourself thinking about, okay, what am I going to cook for dinner? How's this conversation going to go? Blah, blah, blah. So what if we let go of that assumption that at the end of this meditation, I'm going to stand up and open my eyes? Because it's a completely unjustified assumption. We don't know if that's going to happen. There's one time when it's not going to happen. Could be this time. It always could be this time. You know, only this breath is guaranteed. The next breath is not guaranteed. And to note that and to see that clearly is not morbid. It's not weird. It's not negative. It's not pessimistic. When you realize, I mean, I find, and I find this confirmed in the works of the words of the sages and the words of the poets, that the clearer you get that only this breath is guaranteed, the clearer you get that only this moment is, then you start to actually have your life. Before that, you just kind of have a thought about your life, if that makes sense to you, if you can hear that, right? Then every moment is the moment. Then every kiss is your first kiss. Then every supper is the last supper, right? Then you're living. You're living by letting everything go, by giving everything up, by giving up your life. When, the first line, when one has given up one's life, right? You give it, and you know, this phrase, give it, give up, in our culture, usually, you know, we say, don't give up, never give up, as if giving up is a negative thing. But you know, break down that expression. To give, giving is a nice thing. Giving is a positive thing, right? And up is a good direction, right? Give up, right? Give it up. Give it to God. Give it to the boundless. Give it to the true, to your true nature. Give it to your Buddha nature. Give it, let it. This is what I was really, in a little bit more direct, less poetic language, what I was saying over and over in the meditation tonight. Whatever it is, just let it dissolve into this presence. Let it dissolve into this beingness. Let it melt into this awareness that's right here, that's always right here. That's the giving it up. Giving up your life. What's your life, as she's talking about it here? Your story. You know, this thing with a beginning and a middle and an end. This thing with an arc, as they say in Hollywood, when they're always developing scripts and movies. We're always developing our own scripts, developing our movies. This is my life. I'm this kind of person. I got this name. I'm going, and it's important on a certain level. We do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But once we really get serious about the Dharma, about the spiritual life, the meditative life, oh, there's something else that we give it up into, that we're no longer attached to it, that we find the place where we would be perfectly okay if we never opened our eyes at the end of this meditation, or if we never got out of the chair where we're sitting right now. Okay, and we don't find that okayness, again, by, you know, trying to manipulate our mood or our attitude. We find that okayness by finding that dimension of okayness, by finding that boundlessness. Because why do we have to have all that stuff in order to seek resolution? When we're pre-resolved, all that stuff is fine, but it's optional. It's optional. So when one has given up one's life, it's fine. It's fine. I give it up. then the parting with the rest feels easy. So it's the parting with the rest, all this other stuff that we are going to have to part with, right? I once heard an interview on NPR years ago with this woman, this lawyer who'd written a book about prenups. And the interviewer said, that's so unromantic. You finally find the person that you want to spend your life with, and then you say, okay, honey, I love you, I want to marry you, stay with me, now let's write up a prenup. And the lawyer, the author, responded by saying, well, you know, let's face it, every marriage ends with divorce or death. I went, wow, that's interesting. That's true. So all meetings lead to partings. All things, right? It's the second to the last thing that the Buddha said before he died. All composite things must fall apart, right? You're having a good hair day today, you're bald tomorrow. It's your favorite shirt today, it's a dust rag tomorrow. All that stuff, everything goes away. Everything goes away. Your cute little kittens, they become cats. So we're constantly parting with things. And, you know, there can be so much grief, so much heartache over that. But when we're pre-resolved, right? When we've given up our life, the parting with the rest feels easy, as when day lets go entirely the west, right? You want to know how to do this? Watch the sunset. As the sun lets go of the west, as the sun sinks below the horizon, how much resistance is there? How much do you feel the sun or the sky or the mountain saying, oh no, don't lose the daylight? You know, do we hear the sun saying, nah, I don't want to die? No, it's just tune into how much noise do they make? That perfect silence. That's it. That's that presence. That's that inner silence that we are. And the more you just give everything up into that, the more the parting with all the other stuff that we have to part with becomes easy. Okay? Thank you, Emily Dickinson.